that there's something so special about you and me, babe. So just say the words, cause you know what it means to me, babe.
Welcome to the Babes in Sports podcast. My name is Jamie Hersch.
I'm Tory Roy. We're two friends navigating being mothers, wives, and successful women in the demanding, male-dominated world of sports. We just, literally before we started recording, you guys, Jamie and I just had to catch up, and it's just I think specifically, Jamie, because of what we do, on my mind right now is everyone out there who, if you're on the road right now for work, spring break, if you're flying, be safe out there. Give yourself the extra time that you need. Be smart, make good choices, because we know that things are really crazy in the airports right now, and we're kind of experiencing it and figuring things out with our families and with our jobs. And I last week had a horrendous travel experience. I was in Georgia. I was in Southwest Georgia. And so I had to fly into Tallahassee. And coming back, my flight from Tallahassee to Atlanta was canceled. So I had to instead drive from Tallahassee to Atlanta 3 hours, which was like an easy drive, but like a boring drive to make my flight home to Newark, which was 2 hours delayed anyway. And the worst turbulence, Jamie, I have trained myself right at this point.
Yeah,
we have to train ourselves. Worst turbulence of my life. I don't know if because I was in the back of the plane and it was the only seat I could get, but I was clutching, and I haven't done that in a really long time. So, I haven't felt that way in a while. And now with kind of the news of TSA and the government funding and things like that, it's just good to be as prepared as we possibly can. But how have your travels been? Because that's on my mind right now. But what about you?
Well, honestly, I've been really thankful that I haven't had to travel much lately, especially with the kids. So I travel a little bit for work. I went to Minneapolis and Denver recently for the PWHL, which was super exciting. Denver is really hoping to get an expansion team next year for the PWHL, and I am so rooting for that because it's a
Hell yeah.
1-hour flight. I have so many friends and even some family members in Denver, and so I would just really love to go there more often. And it was a really fun time. It was a beautiful day. Everything was really great. But yes, in terms of travel, my kids actually just had their spring break, and I felt very fortunate that we live in a place and decided to take a spring break trip that did not involve flying. So we did a little beach town in Central California, and it was a heat wave there, which was perfect timing.
Wild.
So we got to go in the ocean. The kids were catching sand crabs. We went fishing off the shore, and just kind of chilled for 4 days, which was really what I think we needed as a core four of us, just to kind of
One
be.
place. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was a really great time. So, I think there's a lot of pressure for parents to experience the best spring breaks ever, right? There's this whole saying of you only get 10 or whatever, 12, 13 spring breaks with your kids. And it's okay, yes. And that doesn't mean it has to be some fancy, expensive, adventurous vacation. Sometimes even a staycation is really cool. So we did that for the first few days where I was just home with them. We had friends over. We warmed up the pool because it was nice enough here. And it was a really lovely just time to reconnect. And especially at this age, the kids don't need that much, right? They just want to be with each other. And we all discovered, mostly me, a love for puzzles. I am now an 80-year-old.
Jamie.
Tory. I will send you a picture. You can post this on your Instagram. My 1,000 piece puzzle that I have been up until about midnight every night for the past 3 nights completing after the kids have been down.
What did you find so honestly, because I'm curious, enthralling about this that kept you up to do it, 1,000 pieces? How did you do that?
I think it really, so I've always liked puzzles like Sudoku and word games, but something about there's something so satisfying about finding pieces that fit together. And maybe this is a bigger conversation about the chaos of my life right now and how this is something that I can control and that things fit and they match and they go together, and I can feel some sort of success with that. Like, I don't
Right.
know. It's
The
kind
one
of
thing we can control, the one thing
my
we can control
husband
as
Matt,
mom. Yes.
my husband Matt has given me, like, he got it for me because they had one at the beach house. They had a puzzle.
Yeah,
at the beach house where we were staying, and I couldn't finish it because we had to leave. Right, like it literally was up until like 1 a.m, which I never am up that late.
and you couldn't finish it.
Couldn't finish it because it was so hard, and we had to leave, and so I was like literally until the minute that we had to leave the Airbnb, I was like trying to finish. I couldn't. So he was so sweet. He went out with the kids and they picked out a puzzle, and it's of course Disney princesses. Cadence picked it out, but it's 1,000 pieces and it took me a really long time. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm going on and on now about puzzles, but I would say if you're looking for a new hobby and a new mindless way to waste time that doesn't involve doom scrolling, puzzles are fantastic.
That's huge. And I wouldn't say mindless, right? Because I think it shifts your brain in a different focus, right? Because we're always thinking about what needs to be done. And
Yeah.
instead you can actually focus on like something that needs to be done that doesn't have all this burden on your shoulders.
Right.
It's a
Right.
puzzle.
I can
So
literally
I
like
love that. I really do.
yeah.
And going back to spring break for a second, I didn't know spring break was a thing until college, by the way. So when did this become this
Wait, what? You
pressure,
didn't go on family spring break trips?
Jamie?
Well, because you had older siblings and sports and
Yeah, I didn't even get like a day at the beach. Like we would still have to practice in the morning. Like spring break was like not a thing. So all of us, good for us for giving this to our children because
yeah.
I would have
So true.
never known the difference. Would have been like, oh, you're staying home and playing a tournament. So good for us, good for all of us. But yeah, we're thinking of everyone out there that are going through any travel woes. Listen to the pod. We've got 2 seasons now, so just plug in the rest if you're stuck at the airport. We're here for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Jane, this has been on my mind because I have been hearing a lot about it from people in our industry, and I'm sure you have as well. And I think it's something that impacts all of us, honestly, regardless of where you work, regardless of what you do. The idea of keeping the blinders on, right? Like staying focused on your own path without getting caught up in what everyone else is doing. Social media, it's almost impossible not to look at what everyone around you is doing, see someone else landing something, building something, posting something about, an interview or where they are, things like that. And you're happy for them. We're happy, but it can still pull you out of your own lane, and make you overthink things. So I think we all have those moments, and I have my own little pep talk that I give to myself and to colleagues that, have vented to me about it. But what about you? How do you keep your blinders on?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right that it's something I think we all deal with. And I'll speak for myself. I've dealt with it for forever. And social media is vicious. And it's not even vicious. Like you said, if I see a colleague of mine posting something, I am happy for them. I am like, wow, that's a really cool experience you just got to have. But within seconds, I'm playing the comparison game of like, even if it's not, I should be doing that assignment, because it's usually not. It's usually,
Right.
why haven't I posted about what I've been doing? Because I hate, this is kind of a little known fact about me, I hate posting on Instagram. I want to do it more. I know it's an important part of my personal career. And I hate it because I put too much pressure on it. I want it to be perfect. I then immediately am like looking at how many likes or engagements or comments or whatever, like what performs better than others in terms of posting. And like anytime I start thinking like that, then I like hate myself for thinking that way because I'm like, this is so stupid. It's just fake. It's a highlight reel. It's Instagram. It's not real life. But I still think like that. And I still get caught up in the nonsense of it. And so I think it's just this crazy cycle where it's like, I feel pressure to post more and then I go to post more. And if you looked at my drafts, you'd be amazed. I have probably a dozen like stories, not stories, reels,
Yeah.
posts, etc. that are now like defunct, right? Like I no longer
3 years old, 4 years old. Yeah.
my like December trip to New York, which by the way was magical. And I got to see you and I got to have amazing experiences. And I have so many amazing videos that were going to make a really beautiful reel. And then I just got in my own head, didn't post it. And now here we are, it's March and I feel like I can't post Christmas. So this is what we're talking about.
It's a vicious cycle.
I applaud whoever is able to post regularly on Instagram and get out of their own way and put up their content. And that I am so impressed because I really struggle with that. But back to your original question about playing the comparison game and like trying to put our blinders on and stay in our own lane. A saying that I always go back to is, you are enough. And that's a very simple thing, 3 words that I tell myself, and you can expand upon it however you want. You are pretty enough. You are good enough. You are talented enough. You are strong enough. Whatever it is, you are enough. And for me personally, it was like a faith-based thing that when I was growing up, like, I went to church camp and we talked about the idea of being enough because we're children of God and whatever. But like, that's where that started for me.
I love that.
It really, I try to tell that to especially women in our industry. And I remember Michelle McMahon, she's one of the people actually years later came back and told me that was something that stuck with her, that when I first told her the idea that you are enough, it really stuck with her. And so I hope that is helpful, because that's what I tried to tell myself, because that's the one thing. And the second thing is that there's only really one you, right? And no one else is going to be a better version of me, and I'm not going to be a better version of someone else. So I think, especially in our business, if you lean into what makes you unique and what makes you have a fun personality, like what you're really good at, versus also knowing your weaknesses and working on those, like try to focus on that more than what you're not.
It's so well said. And it sounds easy, right? It sounds like an easy thing to do, like an easy concept, but it actually takes practice. Like, because I remember feeling that way, just because I think you and I are overly ambitious people. And I think a lot of the people that we know and surround ourselves with are as well. So you just want to do everything. And to see that maybe someone is a little bit ahead of you, you're asking why, right? And you're directing it at yourself, kind of like what you were saying. And it really took practice for me to be like, oh, so-and-so is getting this, or so-and-so is getting that, but there's all these factors that you don't know as well, right? That have nothing to do with you. So that's when you have to stop internalizing it, stop taking it personally, and focus on what you have next. And that it takes a lot of practice. So that's what I say as well, is just practice focusing on what you have ahead of you and what you need to do to get better. Right. And yeah, there's still so many other things out there that the context of, if one person is getting more attention for another, or one person likes to speak up more than others, like, okay, but like, what's the context of that?
Right.
You don't know how the relationships outside of what you see, everyone else's relationships are so different, and the vibes are so different between other people. But yeah, it's just focusing inward on yourself, what you can do better, and making a habit of
what you already have. I think that's something too that, I always try to remember, if I'm feeling like, I didn't get this assignment, or I didn't, if there's something that I'm bummed about, I have to always remind myself what I have. And sometimes that doesn't mean career, right? Like you and I, and a lot of people listening, have made the choice to try to balance career and motherhood. And a lot of people don't have that choice. And so it kind of opens them up to more availability and more, career opportunities. And that just is a fact. So anytime I think about that, I'm like, yeah, this person that I might be a little bit envious of for a moment is doing this, but they don't have kids to come home to. And that's that. Like, I wouldn't trade my life for that, for their life, So I think anytime you play the comparison game, which is a very inevitable thing to do, just try to look at what you have and the assignments you are getting and the opportunities you are getting. And even if you're not getting them currently, you never know. Like, literally a year ago, I had no idea about anything with the NWSL. And now I'm one of their main play-by-play people. So like, that was not a thing that I even thought was on my radar, right? And you never know. And it's such a good reminder that, like, if you just keep putting yourself out there and keep doing good work, you're going to get noticed and you're going to get more opportunities. And then you can add that to your little bank in your head that you can remind yourself of when you're playing the comparison game.
So big picture or big puzzle?
You're trying to be a Jamie joke. I get it.
Yeah, I was close. What I needed, it's like, put all the pieces together to create the bigger picture, right?
Yes, exactly. I know. I'll take a picture of my puzzle and we can put it on the socials, because like I said, I'm terrible at posting. The secret's out. I hate posting.
Puzzles, folks. Great. We're going to get all the puzzle community to follow us now. But yeah, in all seriousness, I've just been thinking about it because it has been coming up a lot where I work lately. And yeah, I want everyone to feel good about the things that they're doing and the things that you're doing in your personal life too, because as we have
Mhm.
discussed on this pod, you got to get past just work, right? And
Yeah,
life that is going to last a lot longer than work.
totally. So we'd be remiss if we did not mention what's been heavy on our hearts this week. And that certainly is the shock and the sadness and the heartbreak following the devastating news this weekend that one of my friends and colleagues and fellow sports mama, who, by the way, would have been so good on this podcast, and she's talked to me about this podcast in the past, um, Jessi Pierce. She died in a house fire along with her 3 young children, Caden, Hudson, Avery. And I'm going to do my best to keep it together because I really do want to talk about how great she was and not just focus on the sadness. But we are all in not just, so I'm from Minnesota. Everyone who listens to this probably knows that. She was a Minnesota girl too, loved hockey, worked for the Minnesota Wild for about 10 years doing NHL.com writing, and also had a podcast that I was so proud to be the first guest on. It was called Bar Down Beauties. And it was 2 women who, she and a co-host who were basically ahead of their time. This was probably 2019. I think I had Brooks. It was either 2019 or 2020 when we first started. Um, and they invited me to be their first guest because they wanted to talk about hockey and specifically from a woman's perspective, which is so awesome. That is who she was. She was just such a pioneer in terms of continuing to pave the way for women to be so knowledgeable about hockey. She always asked great questions, but in a really fair way. I don't know a single person that didn't like her. And that's saying something, right? Especially we talk about the comparison game. We talk about this industry and women sometimes having to pit themselves against each other. She never had an ounce of that. And she was truly authentically herself. She would, get into it with, mean people on Twitter sometimes, but she would always stand up for herself. And the only thing that she loved more than hockey and her job was her kids. And we talked about being a mom a lot. And I will really miss those conversations because she was always at the rink, whether it was the Wild or certainly the PWHL, as that has grown in the past few years. She was a true rink rat and loved hockey, loved talking about it, and I'll really miss her.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jame. I know it hasn't been an easy couple days, but we're here for you. We're here with you. And I mean, it really is so rare to see headline after headline about how beloved she was, right? Not just in the hockey community, not just in the Minnesota community, but the sports world in general. And that's what I wish I could have gotten to know her. I wish I could have had these discussions with her because it sounds like she would have been phenomenal. And I guess, how would you describe her personality?
I think just unapologetically herself, which is something we could all strive to be more like. She had so many strong opinions and shared them, but in a really kind way. She stood up for herself and she stood up for the idea of equality in terms of women working in sports, but never in an abrasive way, which is such a hard line to balance. And she did that with such grace. Um, and just like, it's been so inspiring and amazing to see the reach that this story has. I mean, like, obviously I knew everyone in the hockey community was touched by her, and the NHL released a statement, the Wild released a statement, the PWHL, like everyone in the hockey community was aware of this, but it has gone so far outside the hockey world. I saw People magazine had something on it, like, which I think part of it is just the shocking nature of it all and just the devastating fact that she's 37 and this vibrant young woman with 3 young kids and their family dog that all just died in a fire. And I think the hardest thing is just like wondering how this possibly could have happened. You start wondering, like, it's 2026, we have fire alarms and all this, and I know they're doing their due diligence and trying to figure it out, but that's been the scariest thing for me is trying to like figure out like, do we need to have a fire safety plan in our house? Like there's whatever that's all secondary, but it's been a really challenging week. And the best part for sure has been just the incredible outpouring of pictures and stories and memories. And I hope that that gives her husband and her family some sort of solace, because everyone truly loved Jessi. And I hope that the fact that this reaction has been to this magnitude helps the people who are grieving.
And we're certainly thinking of her family and her husband, Mike. Jamie, do you know, like, how can we support her family through this time? Is there a GoFundMe or any sort of link that we can share?
There is, and I
Okay.
gotta say, I've been blown away. There's a GoFundMe that I think a family friend set up, and as of yesterday, I
Uh-huh.
saw it was over 150,000 raised
Uh-huh.
already, which is gonna go toward funeral costs, obviously, for her and the 3 kids, and probably also just toward easing any sort of burden that her husband Mike might have, because I mean, I just can't imagine, right? He was out of town on a work trip, and I literally, like, we talked about mom guilt being gone, like, there's nothing else that compares to, like, being gone when, something like this happens. And so my heart just goes out to him, and I've been, praying for him a lot. And so, yes, there is a GoFundMe, and if you are listening and find it in your heart to go support that, we'll definitely try to post that link, and keep the thoughts and memorials coming. And I'm sure, the thing is, when something like this happens, like, I'm sure they're reeling right now, her family, but at some point, they're going to sit down and say, okay, how can we keep her memory alive? And how can we keep the kids' memory alive? And I'm sure it's going to have something to do with women in sports. I'm sure it's going to have something to do with hockey. And that is so beautiful. So I'd like to think that any donations, if they're not used for necessary things, might eventually go towards starting maybe a Jessi Pierce Foundation or something like.
Oh, I really hope so. And it's a reminder for us too, right? Just in in our personal lives, in our work lives, like, keep showing up. Keep showing up for yourself, keep showing up for your family. Do what you're passionate about, right? Because that is what Jessi was doing, and never lose sight of why you started. So, Jamie, thanks again for sharing that, just so our listeners can learn a little bit about her. And again, guys, we'll have that GoFundMe link in our page and on our Instagram. Take care of yourselves. We appreciate you all being here with us today.